I would just add to that by saying that when you take a look at this, as an attorney, I believe in precision in language. And so I think what you need to do is stop and think for a minute. And we've allowed the conversation to get away from us by calling this a coal terminal. Well, that's only one part of this. What it really is supposed to be called is a bulk commodity terminal. And the reason is that the structure for it is to ship out numerous products to numerous destinations from one centralized location. So I think we do a big disservice by calling this the coal terminal. But, you know, and if you want to talk about grain producers and their hopes for this terminal, that's a conversation that should be held, I believe. But first of all, I think the politicians around here did a really big disservice to the community by jumping on and saying that you know, they wanted to oppose this immediately. I think it cost the former mayor of Bellingham his job. The current mayor did a very good job. She said, you know what I'm going to look at is, let's find out what the proposal actually is. Let's make sure the applicants are in a capacity to build that proposal. And then let's go through the process and see if the laws that we have in place are going to allow us to mitigate for potential harms. And if we can mitigate, then we mitigate. If we can't mitigate, then we need to find a different project. And that's a very reasonable approach, I think, to something that is a very, very big project.
Let me just add to this one thing real quickly. So you ask, should politicians do that? Politicians are elected, and they can stand up against the public anytime they want to, and then they risk being unelected. And I, you know, there's not a politician I know who agrees 100% with everything I agree with. So they do what they think is best, and then we hold them accountable. But the fact is that we shouldn't allow politicians, we should give politicians as little control over our lives as possible. We should give corporations as little control over our lives as possible. We should give the community as little control over our lives as possible. So when he advocates, well, the community decides, that is the ideology of McCarthyism. McCarthyism was, we're going to blacklist people that we don't like from writing in Hollywood because we've decided that they're communist or something, and we decided that and put these folks out of business. How was McCarthyism broken? In fact, there was a case where one of the writers who was blacklisted ended up getting an Academy Award, but using a pseudonym. Why? Because their work was so high quality that the free market said, your work is valued. And we don't care what the community says. We're going to recognize the value that you have as an individual. Right? That's where the decisions should be made. And simply substituting corporations for the individuals or for community who then decide about what your value is. It's nonsense. It is just substituting one for another. Now let me just last say this. I think you can get a sense of the games that they're playing and talking about this by when they talk about our drinking water is threatened. I worked on Lake Whatcom when I was at the Department of Natural Resources and the forest land around that area. The drinking water is not threatened. You guys can turn on your faucets and drink the water. Why? Because it's treated. The concern about Lake Whatcom is not about the fact whether you will have water to drink. The concern is about the impact on wildlife. It doesn't matter whether Lake Whatcom is at one temperature or another to us, right? We can turn on and off the faucet. Temperature does matter to wildlife. So why do they focus on drinking water? Because it has an emotional appeal, not because it's scientific. And so many of the things that they're talking about have nothing to do with the science. They're an emotional appeal. Okay? By focusing on the science. And as a builder, he should say, you know what? I want to do what's right and create economic benefit so people that can live. And if there are impacts on Lake Whatcom, I will pay for them or stop them. That's my responsibility. Freedom and responsibility. You shouldn't rely on people having two sides of their brain. You should say you have the freedom, but you also have to take responsibility. That's only the free market can do that.
The second question is for a coal-free Bellingham.
Is there an opportunity for the
Sure. This is what we need to do because.
Yeah, I whacked them. They can rebut.
We really need to keep them at a minimum because I really want as many people to be able to ask questions as possible. So Let's just say just a couple minutes for one panel and the rebuttal to be a couple minutes as well. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah.
I was thinking of having the rebuttals after both questions are asked. Do you think it should be after each question?
Let's do it now, it's
Yeah,
fresh.
let's do it now.
Let's do it.
Okay. So we've heard a lot about responsibility, and with freedom you get responsibility. But the fact is, this is gonna step back much further from up in the air than we've been so far, looking at the thing from 100,000 feet. If you look at the financial system, if you look at any financial statements, it's all measured in dollars. The dollars are the result of transactions among people. There is no financial system statement anywhere in the world, and there has never been one in the history of the world, where some of the money, some of the statistics resulted from dollars spent, given in a transfer with Mother Nature. None. So the financial statements are financial statistics at every level, business level, personal level, government level, are in outer space. The system of financial calculations that we use is in outer space, and it's the basis of all the decisions that we make. So there's no way that we can use that way of making decisions in a way that is responsible. It's built in irresponsibility. The fundamental calculations that businesses make are fundamentally irresponsible. And all of us too.